I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
And we are live, Confessions of a Business Owner, with your host, Charlie. And today I am joined by Samantha Lees from Auxano Marketing. And I think I even stuttered that a little bit, so we'll do it again. Auxano Marketing. Such a cool name. I was actually just on your website, Sam, and I love the meaning of this. So it's a Greek word for anyone, Auxano, the one, to cause, to grow and become greater. So I just think that is so cool. I'm thrilled that you spent the time picking a name with some meaning and some oomph to it.
Yeah, we were really, really excited when we came across that name. That was, in essence, exactly what we're all about. So that was such a perfect fit for us.
I agree. And it's like, I've been so excited to have you on the show because I met you quite a while back, and I think we're on the same level in many ways, or we think about a lot of the same things about life and about business in the same context. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. But for those of the listeners, which I say will be many of them, that don't know you as well as I do, can you tell us a little bit about what Auxano does?
Yeah, well, look, Auxano Marketing is my rebranded version of my business, but I'm a social media consultant and trainer. And essentially my business is about helping other businesses to embrace social media marketing and causing them to grow in many ways. But Facebook is probably one of our biggest areas that we work with people in. So whether that's consulting or training, a bit of both.
Well, it's hard to ignore the juggernaut that is Facebook. We have to say, in the last 5 years, I'm not sure there's maybe Google, but I was going to say, I'm not sure there's been any bigger platform for marketing and creating new business like that. Is that the feeling you get as well?
It is. The funny thing for me, the biggest learning experience I've had in the last year is that lots of businesses are aware that Facebook is this big giant that they have barely even started to tap the potential of. But a lot of businesses come to us because, Facebook's this thing they don't understand that they want to learn more about. But when we delve a little bit deeper, we find that there is actually so much more they can do with their business. And Facebook is kind of how they come to us. But actually, the funny thing about my business is that traditional marketing and traditional relationship building is actually our fallback. It's what we put our focus on. People spend so much time on Facebook that they forget, and they hide behind a computer. They forget to build relationships and connections with their customers. And they wonder why it's not working, because they lose the ability to communicate.
You are well researched. Now, I just want to say, before I comment in, we did not rehearse this at all.
We didn't actually, no.
But I could not agree more. And if anyone that's a regular listener to the show will know how much I agree with that statement, because like in-person relationships, there is no substitute. I think there's way too many business owners hiding behind a screen, almost scared of people.
Yep. It's a big danger, and it's really damaging to a business because it does not help you build loyal fans and followers. So
yeah. See, 2 peas in a pod, Sam. I knew this is how this episode would go. I was confidently bringing you on here, go, look, she's going to back up my point of view here.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I actually started out doing door-to-door sales, and that experience is what I've brought into my business now. That's actually the core. What I learned there is that we've got around about 7 seconds to impress somebody before they make a decision to either hear us out or boot us out. And social media, that is not 7 seconds, it's more like 3. So if you can't connect with somebody in person really quickly, if you can't build that commonality, that relationship with them, you've got no hope doing it through a computer. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that we spend time focusing on, is helping people to get back to that, having that connection with their customers.
Well, what I find really interesting is that if I meet someone in person in real life and then I see their online presence, it's like they work in synergy. They're not opposing forces. It's like I'm actually more likely to watch a video if I've seen someone in person, or read an article, or do business with someone. So yeah. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, I've brought you onto the show for an absolute ripper of a confession. This is something I'm really looking forward about getting into. So, Sam Lees, this is your time to confess on Confessions of a Business Owner. What are you going to bring to us? What are you going to talk to us about?
Well, look, probably and we talked about this earlier, there are so many things that and I'm a baby of a business. We're only in year 3, we've just cracked 3 years now. So I'm first of all really proud that we are still surviving and alive and growing, which is great. But over that time, I feel that we've learned some really big lessons. And probably the biggest lesson was that I became a slave in the first 12 months to my customers. I became a slave to money. I was saying yes to things I shouldn't have been saying yes to. And it very nearly crushed our business right at the very, very start. And I was so lucky, so blessed to have some people around me that could see what was going on and were able to help me sort of step out of that and into a healthier space for the business. But it was probably Christmas, year 1, and we'd been operating for nearly a year when so the biggest part of my business and how we started was I was a consultant. So I literally ran Facebook and marketing for businesses. That was the main part of what I did. And that meant that in order for me to bring money into the business, I had to have lots of consulting clients. And at that time I had around about 8. One was what we considered to be our foundation client. So it brought in the majority of the business income. But we hit Christmas of year 1, and in Tasmania, where I'm based, and all of my clients at that time were based in Tasmania, summer is a really busy time. So a lot of businesses here are not good at thinking ahead. They don't tend to make hay while the sun shines. So when things get busy and business is going well, they cut out their marketing. A lot of them do it. It's a really silly move. But at that point in time, we had 4 of our businesses. One was the foundation client dropped out. Literally within 3 days of each other. They all decided we don't need marketing right now, so we're going to stop working with Sam and her team. And the funny thing was that all of the 4 that dropped out, months before, my team and I knew that we shouldn't have been working with them. They were clients that didn't value us. They were clients that we were working with simply because they were paying us, and we felt that, well, we need the money, so we'll just keep doing what we don't enjoy doing. We didn't love working with them. We didn't feel that they were serving us or we were serving them, but they were paying. So we kept it going instead of taking on clients that would have been a better fit for us. And they cut us loose all at the same time. And I just went into this dive. I remember sitting there the week after Christmas with my head in my hands. I had my business coach on the phone, and I just went, I have to go back and get a job because, I'm not cut out for this. I'm going to have to take more clients on. I don't know where I'm going to find them, what I'm going to do. And that was the point where I realized that I had put myself out there and said yes every single time anyone wanted to work with me. Just yes, 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 yes. I didn't interview my clients. I let them interview me. So essentially, I was being employed by all of them because I was allowing them to put me through that interview process rather than really I should have been doing it the reverse way around and deciding whether they were the right fit for us. So I realized that consulting clients were really fickle. It's crazy that I had to realize that, but it's true, the hard way, and decided that that was not a direction I wanted to pursue for 100% of my business income anymore. So I thought, if I could do the job and have the business I love, what would that look like? Well, I'd work with only a select few businesses I really enjoy working with that I know respect me, I can get great results for, and everyone's happy. So where else am I going to bring my income in? And that was the point where I decided I needed to bring in another income stream that was more reliable, more enjoyable, and I was providing more value to the world. And so we brought in the workshops and training courses, which now is the biggest part of my business. And we also brought in a policy that, number one, if a client ever negotiates the rate we give them, ever, then straight away they're a no. We're not going to work with them. We'll move them on to somebody else. Because if they negotiate the rate at the very start, they negotiate everything all the way through, and they don't value us. So that was a big thing. And the other thing was we started interviewing people, and if they didn't fit within our business values and our culture and our avatar, then they were not a fit for us, and we would very kindly and gently move them on to somebody else. And while we've been sticking with that, life has been so much more enjoyable, and the business has been growing in leaps and bounds.
What a great story. And there's so many incredibly powerful lessons within that. Now, first off, I can only imagine sitting there just after Christmas and having the majority of your clients had moved on, including one big one.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, like, I know if it was me, like, panic would have been setting in a bit. Did you feel that?
Oh my goodness. I've got 4 kids, and over Christmas every year, because it's that time where particularly in marketing, businesses just don't really want to deal with anybody. They're either busy or they're on holiday. So I take that opportunity to have some time off with my family. And we're all water skiers. So actually at that time, I remember we were camping. We were at Lake Barrington, where we go all through summer and water ski. And I was in my caravan, and I was on my phone, and I had just had 2 had text messaged me, 2 had emailed me. And I remember sitting in my caravan, like I said, with my business coach on the phone in the tiny bit of phone reception we had, just in tears. And, I thought, I've got my kids out there. I've got Greg, my partner, who has been so supportive of everything that I've been doing. And funnily enough, had my accountant out there as well, because they are our closest friends and they camp with us also. So I basically had my whole team around me at that time. And we called a little meeting, and Greg and Simon and I sat inside the caravan with a glass of wine, talking about how we were going to get through this next couple of weeks and what we were going to do next, because it had gone from a point where at the very beginning of my business, they were unsure that I was going to be able to do this. But through that year, that I guess I had instilled some confidence in them, in what I was doing, what I was trying to achieve. And they actually sat me down and said, "You can do this. We know you can do it. You've got an amazing service, an amazing product. So we just need to figure out now how you're going to get to that next little step and get you through this bit." So this is what I mean. Sometimes I think people fail in business because they're not surrounded by supportive people that are there for them. And these guys were just, them and my business coach, they were just rocks when I needed them. And they gave me that little shove in the back and said, keep going. But man, oh man, I was so ready to quit at that point. It was devastating.
I agree with that a lot. I certainly remember when I first started in business and people would say things like, "Oh, your network is your net worth." And I was like, "Oh, come on, like, you're kidding me." But certainly to this day, though, I really believe it in a big way. I think your network, who you can rely on when the cards are down, makes all the difference.
Yeah. And
this is just another great example of how having the right people around you is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And if nothing else, just people that can see, what you're capable of, even when you can't. And I think that's important. If you said to me 5 years ago, I'm going to have a business one day, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, you're crazy. There's no way I know how to run a business. I couldn't do that. But now I look at it and go, how could I have ever thought I couldn't? Because this is just so me. It's so part of who I am. And I love it. I really, really love it. It doesn't come without its challenges, that's for sure.
Well, the funny thing is, I think you're actually designed for it, Sam. I think it suits you. So that's a very interesting comment, but it's like the business owner is within you. I can really see it on that front.
Yeah.
So the biggest part of your business, which is the trainings and webinars, and I'll call it the educational side, if you will.
Yeah.
This has now become the biggest part of your business. But would it have happened if this circumstance didn't arise?
Look, it wouldn't have. The thing was, and it may have eventually come about, but it certainly wouldn't have become what it is now, I don't think, or maybe not for quite some time. It was this sort of pipe dream I had, was to train people at some point, do some coaching. And people had certainly asked me, look, we don't want you to consult to us, but would you teach us? And funnily enough, one of the things I wanted to be when I was a kid was a teacher. And I almost went to university to study to be a teacher while I was on maternity leave. And, because I'm not someone that sits down for very long. I don't know if you've noticed that yet, Charlie, but I don't.
No, you're kidding. I didn't notice that at all. She's probably got 4 flights to catch today.
Yeah. So it sort of was, it was one of those things that I needed to be shoved into. But once I did, you know, when you do something and you look back and you're like, how did I not see this? How did I not do this 10 years ago? And it just felt so natural to teach and coach. And when I teach and coach, I'm in my element. I love it. I have so much fun building people up, helping them to grow, which is essentially where the name of the business came from. But no, if I hadn't gone through that process, I don't think I would be doing this part of my business today. That is the part that is the growth. It's the growth for us is the training, not the consulting. That's just almost a little side part of the business now.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So something I'm noticing a lot of in doing this podcast and speaking with so many business owners is it's amazing in how many circumstances, myself included in this, I will say, of like what perceivably was their biggest challenge at the time, ended up becoming one of their greatest strengths. So in this, I'm sure, and you know, I'm very terribly sorry that you had a horrid Christmas one year, but on the back of it,
I'm not sorry.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be either, actually. I take that back. It was completely worth it because it's turned into something that is miraculous. And for myself, I mean, I have a very similar story. I don't know if you knew this either. Again, we weren't rehearsed. But it's like when I had my advertising agency, had to leave a Christmas lunch to go and set up ads or change over some ads for a Boxing Day sale. So I left the family lunch to go to work. And I came back to the lunch. But it's like my partner, B, was very dirty on me for that. She really was not happy that that's how I was behaving. And I was really stressed and I didn't enjoy that Christmas at all. And that was definitely a wake-up moment for me. It was really like, you know, is this really what you want for your life? Is this really what you're allowing? So it's very cool. But I want to loop into a different question here because I think this is there's 2 that come from this, but I'll start with the first part of that.
Yeah.
Why do you think, particularly in startups, we are just so prone to say yes to everything and take on anything that comes across our?
That's a good question. And I am certain I know why we do that. And it's because we don't value ourselves. It's because we feel that we are not worth more. And it is a hard lesson to learn. The funny thing about it is, I'll go back to the coaching side of things because I learned this the hard way. And I'm so lucky I had a business coach behind me that could see potential and was shoving me ahead. Because again, I wouldn't have learned this lesson if I hadn't listened. Listening is important too. Listening and learning and personal development and constantly be learning and changing. That's important. But when I first started coaching, I thought, you know, when you sort of think hourly rates, one thing I've got to say is working on hourly rates is a big mistake, I believe. I adopted the process of charging for projects right at the very beginning, and I'm glad I did. But the only part of my business where I started charging hourly for was coaching sessions because they would be done in 1-hour sets. And I would try to sell them as a package, but at the very start I was thinking, well, what would make sense for an hourly rate? And I was like, well, people wouldn't pay more than $100 for an hourly rate. This is my small-minded thinking. And so my business coach got me to charge $125 for my first coaching sessions. And what happened was I got booked up. I had about 20 in a week and I did that for a month straight. Now you can imagine there's not much room left in my business for me, time-wise, when I'm doing 21-hour sessions a week and I'm only getting that $125 an hour for them. So she said, well, the only way to fix this is to do what I told you to do in the first place. You should be charging over $300 an hour for those sessions because then you get someone that values you and listens to what you say and they apply what you tell them to do. Of course, for the $125, I was getting people that were sort of flippant about the information I was giving them. They weren't applying it, they weren't using it because it hadn't hurt them in the back pocket enough to actually make the decision to make the change they needed to in their business that I knew was going to get them what they needed. So I put my hourly rate up to $165. I wasn't willing to move to her level, but I thought I'll come a little bit of the way. And not one person dropped off. I still had 20 sessions a week. I was like, how is this not scaring people off? So I decided, look, in order for me to work smarter hours, I want less coaching clients. I can't handle this number. So I put my hourly rate up to $240. And I only lost around about 10% of them. I couldn't believe it. So the thing I thought about at that point was, if I had just listened and valued myself at the start, I could have put my rate right up to that at the very beginning, and I would have been working with people that had valued what we were doing. But that then translated into our consulting. And I thought, okay, well, you know, if I'm more confident in the rate I quote for people for a project at the start, instead of, you know, being a little bit shaky about, you know, will they say yes or won't they? I started saying, look, we're not going to negotiate our rate anymore. I am worth what I'm worth. My team is worth what my team is worth. If they don't want to work with us, that's fine. But I want to make sure that everybody is happy and they're getting, you know, a fantastic service, and I've got confidence in that. So we started, increasing our rates. And the crazy thing was that nobody batted an eyelid at it. As long as I came at it with confidence, people were like, well, yeah, if that's what you think you're worth, that's what you're worth. We'll go for it. And it just was a big eye-opener that I didn't have to be negotiating my rates. I didn't have to be worried about being the cheapest. I just had to be confident that we were worth it. And as soon as I had that confidence, no one questioned it. It was, I think I said this to you earlier, one of these clients I worked with at the very beginning, I had that lack of confidence that, you know, we were worth it and as a team. And I ended up one day working, this was in hospitality, this particular business, I ended up working behind the bar when it was kind of like someone had just slapped me with a wet fish. I just kind of went, what am I doing? You know, this is not what I set out to do. And here I am just saying yes to everything. And this client had learned that, you know, they could absolutely slave drive me and absolutely get their money's worth. And I was looking at other people that were consulting to the same business, and they were walking around with the confidence and knowing, you know, exactly what they were worth, and they were knowing, you know, what they were being paid for and what they weren't, and they were having that confidence, and the business never, ever, ever tried it on with them. But as soon as I gave them a reason to, it was great. You know, Sam, do you mind just jumping in behind the bar, and, you know, we're a bit short-staffed today, and what did I do? I said yes. So, yeah.
Another valuable lesson right there. It's quite fascinating. I agree a lot with that as well. I feel like it's a mix of confidence, self-worth, and then the one that comes up for a lot of people is money issues. It's like, I mean, both of us have done a phenomenal program with MJB seminars called Mastermind and Money. And undoubtedly that really helped me have some shifts. But it's like, if underlying you've got some money issues and you start a business, you have this feed the machine mentality and take and say yes to everything, which is scary stuff. But I love how you've had these moments and then really learnt from them. So it's like these experiences, while some have been painful and not enjoyable, I'm sure, it does look like at least you're getting okay, well, I don't want this again. So I'm really going to value this experience. And that's something which I think is quite great in your character as well, Sam.
Yeah, well, I think that was probably the biggest lesson I could learn was if I value myself and what I'm worth, and you know what, I actually bring a huge amount of very unique benefit to the table for any business, because I'm not just a marketer. I also come from a very direct selling background, and I'm able to combine those two together, which many marketers can't do. There's very few marketers out there that are skilled as well in sales. So to be able to bring that relationship building skill and the marketing to the table, as soon as I realized, you know what, I am unique and there isn't another Sam out there, so I need to value myself. That was the point where I realized no one else is going to do it for me. And if I don't do it, you know, of course I'm going to attract people that question my worth. So yeah, big lesson to learn. But funnily enough, I have so much more fun working with the clients we've got now because it's a whole different dynamic, completely different dynamic.
Yeah, and a really important one. So I want to get into part two of this question, because it's one thing to say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But on the reverse of that is, once we have clients or customers or anything within our business, and this is a very common one I see as well, why do you think we hold on to them longer than we should?
Ooh, I think there's a lot of fear there as well. It's the unknown. It's what's around the corner. And actually, one of the things that we learn and you and I met at Mastermind and Money, by the way. That was the first time we ever met. But one of the things I remember them saying to us there was that our brains want to sit where it's comfortable. Like we default to comfort. And if you're to get rid of a client, even if you know in your gut that that is the wrong client to work with, it's that question of what if, if I get rid of them, what happens if I don't get somebody else on? The crazy thing about it is that I think there's a disconnect between head and heart when you're working in a business. Your heart will tell you one thing, your head will tell you another. And it's the question of which one wins most of the time. But the amount of times that I had that very conversation, again, with my business coach around a client that I knew I shouldn't be working with. And I can think of 3 or 4 straight off the bat. And I'm thinking, I'm saying to her, look, these people I hate working with. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel, I get that sinking feeling when I walk into their business. I just don't want to be here because they don't value me or for whatever reason. And she'd say to me, well, you know what you need to do? You need to cut that client off. And I would put it off and put it off and put it off. But nearly every single time that I got rid of a client that I knew was the wrong fit, another one would almost instantly rise up, and it was amazing. But it's that decision to do it that is really scary, because, hey, it's the difference between your business potentially surviving next month or not, which is why we moved away from solely working with consulting clients, because you just don't know one month to the next what's going to happen.
A mentor of mine used to describe it in a really interesting way. He said, imagine your business is a cup of water. And he's like, you have to accept that the cup can only contain so much water. So if the water is your clients, how much of the water do you want to be good clients, and how much do you want to be not the perfect ones? And he's like, if you've got no room for more water, you can't go and take those new good clients on. So he's like, you've always got to be cautious of what water's in your cup, and if you have room to bring in the right.
Well, that actually brings up another big issue that, again, I feel I learned the hard way, but I'm glad I've learned it, and that is knowing your capacity. And again, that yes syndrome that we all have as businesses, where you just say yes to everything and you'll deal with the consequences later. And I've seen many people do this, but you end up, it's so easy to take on more than what you can manage. And again, it may be a mixture of good and bad clients for you, but if you are over capacity and you're unable to manage those clients, that's going to reflect on you really negatively as well. You may be able to do a really great job for them if you haven't overcommitted, but as soon as you overcommit, you spread yourself too thin, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, your team potentially is stressed and overwhelmed, and the client feels you're not delivering, and everybody loses. So that was again where I was able to, and Christmas this year, this is a new process we started going through as a 6-monthly one, which is actually to sit down with the team and have a full business replan. We completely change our business plan every 6 months. We're able to then assess how many clients can we manage, what clients do we want to manage, and if we could do every day, each of us, the things that we love doing, what would that look like, and how do we make that happen? And so we've learned that actually our capacity now is we want 5 really great clients we love to work with. The rest of the business is going to be in the training area. So yeah, capacity is a big thing that I think a lot of people don't think about, because again, they're just in yes mode.
I don't know if you can see it on, but my cheeks are hurting a little bit from smiling, because it's obviously I've done that. Come on.
Yeah. Who hasn't done that?
And we pay the price. We pay the price big time. But again, it's you learn really well from that, every 6 months to bond and look at what capacity is and really assess it and bring it to front of mind is such a powerful thing that many business owners would not do. Now, guys, this is actually, I'm going to speak directly to the listeners on this one from here. Rewind that last bit and probably listen to it again. If you're not currently doing that type of planning in your business, or taking the time to look at what your business would be if it was a great business, or your perception of a great business? Is that something you must start immediately? Absolutely immediately.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Learn from us. Don't learn the hard way. Learn from my mistakes.
Well, that's the point we had this show, is I believe there's some really powerful lessons in everyone's confessions. And it's funny enough that all those confessions often lead to their biggest triumphs. So the thing I like to really express to people that are listening to this, maybe going through a bit of a rough time or had something happen like Sam's Christmas or my Christmas, is realizing that your best attributes and ideas and the person you become because of those situations will be your strength, not your weakness.
Yeah.
You will turn that into something special. Now, Sam, where can people come if they want to learn more about you, or perhaps take a look at your webinars or training and things like that?
Sure. Well, of course, they can go to my Facebook page. We have got a Facebook page called Auxano Marketing. And if you go there, you'll notice just under the cover image, we've got our call to action button, which has got a link straight to our webinar. So they can click there and register. We roll that webinar out probably once a month at the moment, and that's completely free. So that's where we give you some Facebook training and coaching, show you some of the things that you're probably unaware of that go on behind the scenes that can help you get really good traction. And they're fantastic for anyone that has got no Facebook experience or lots of Facebook experience. So I would welcome anybody or everybody that wants to come and check that out. And of course, they can get in touch with me if there's something someone wants to have a chat about. We'd be more than happy to have a chat.
Fantastic, guys. Now, I'll make sure we do have links to all of that in the show notes. So wherever you're watching this video or listening to this podcast, you will be able to click through and go to Sam's website or Facebook page to check these things out. But that is it for this episode, Sam. We're going to wrap this one up on Confessions of a Business Owner. I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on. And hilariously, at the start, I called that we were going to be very in tune. And it just turns out we were spot on. Like, there's a lot of alignments in how we view a lot of things. So big thank you. This has been Confessions of a Business Owner with Charlie and the wonderful Sam Lees.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlie.